Hi guys, we're going to try the notes in a little bit different format today. Rather than me writing them out on the paper with you, I have a PowerPoint presentation that I am going to talk through as you guys fill out your notes. Today we're going to be working on renewable and non-renewable resources. A renewable resource is a resource that can regenerate if they're alive or can be replaced by the biogeochemical cycle. If they're non-living, these things are not necessarily unlimited because they can become limited if we overuse them. An example would be trees. Okay, trees regrow, but it takes a while. So if we cut down a bunch of trees, it's going to be a while before we have any more. Same thing with water. We have a limited amount of fresh water available to us. The earth has a lot of water, but most of it is salt. Only about 1% of the earth's water is available for use right now. And if we use too much of it, we will run out. Or if we pollute it, we'll run out. Non-renewable resources are resources that cannot be replenished very quickly by those natural processes. So this would be like fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas. These are substances that are natural. They are mined or excavated, but it takes a very, very long time for new fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas to form. It takes a lot longer than we have. Okay, we're using it at a very rapid rate, a lot faster than it can be replenished. Sustainable development. It is a way of using natural resources without depleting them or causing long-term environmental harm. So this is like using trees from a tree farm to make paper or lumber. Those trees are grown specifically for the purpose of creating paper or wood or lumber. And so once they are cut, they are then replanted. They plant more trees and then they wait for them to grow and mature, and the cycle continues. Once they're mature, they get cut down, they replant. Once they're mature, they cut down. It's a sustainable way to use those resources. Now here we have some resources and issues that can arise with them. So we're going to go through this. You have this table in your notes. Please fill it out as we go. There is one box that is not in your notes that I would ask you to write in at the bottom. So our first resource is land. Okay, it is renewable. That soil that we're using, that we're getting nutrients out of, it can be used again and again and again. Now an issue with that is plowing land removes roots that once held that soil in place. Once we remove those roots, we increase soil erosion, or like that soil getting washed away. And once that topsoil is gone, it's very hard to get back, and those areas can actually turn into a desert, into an area that plants do not grow in. So how do we prevent that? Well, we could use contour plowing, which is a way of following the natural shape of the earth to farm, rather than flattening out an area and then farming it the way that we are used to. We could also leave those stems and roots in place rather than plowing up every bit of soil that we can find, so that that soil stays in place. Forests are somewhat renewable. Deforestation can lead to severe soil erosion, preventing regrowth of trees. So once that topsoil is gone, it's going to be really hard to get it back. Old growth forests take a very, very long time to grow. And they generally take centuries to grow back. And if we are continually logging those areas, it can cause loss of species. So how do we help keep those issues from becoming a big problem? Well, we practice forest management, and we can farm trees for commercial reasons, for paper production, for lumber production. Another resource that we have is fisheries. It's renewable, but we have lost a lot of species. Between 1950 and 1990, overfishing was a big problem. We went from 19 million tons of fish being caught a year to over 90 million tons of fish being caught a year. So the population of those species began to shrink, and they began to shrink rapidly, which is why the government put commercial guidelines into place to regulate the number of fish that can be caught, which helps keep those populations healthy and stable. We also can farm fish to harvest for food. Okay, here are our last two resources: air, which is renewable, but we are causing a lot of air pollution. So smog from automobile exhausts and industrial emissions are causing pollution. Burning fossil fuels releases pollutants, which can cause health problems after long exposure and can cause acid rain. So the particles that we're putting into the air mix with water and they create an acidic solution. And whenever rain falls with that acid in it, it damages trees, it damages grains, it damages farms, it can damage houses, it can damage automobiles, it can damage statues. Basically anything that's left outside can be damaged. So how are we preventing that? Well, there are emission standards in place that regulate the emissions that can come out of your car. That your automaker, the company that made your car, they have regulations that they have to follow. A few years back, Volkswagen got into trouble with the government because they lied on their emissions test, and that resulted in a lot of cars being recalled. Basically, the company had to take them back and give people back their money. There are also clean air regulations on industrial companies regulating the amount of pollutants that they can put into the air. One way that we can help reduce our emissions from our cars is by using electric cars. A lot of electricity nowadays is being generated by renewable resources like wind or solar, which we're going to talk about soon. Okay, so electric cars can reduce the emissions that are put into the air. Our next resource is fresh water. It is renewable but limited. The issue facing fresh water is pollution. Okay, so these nasty things get into the water supply and can cause problems. These pollutants can be from improperly discarded chemicals. It can happen when erosion occurs and basically topsoil gets into the groundwater, and that can cause problems. And it could also be sewage that's left untreated. That's why we all have to have either a sewer system that is connected to a municipal water supply so that they can treat it, or you have to have some kind of septic tank. And so sustainable development, what can we do to prevent these issues? Well, water conservation. All right, that's why we have regulations saying what can and can't be dumped into streams and rivers and oceans. And that is why we have water treatment plants. All right, so feel free to pause this video at any time, go back, rewatch. If you have any questions, shoot me an email or ask me in class tomorrow.